Ready?
Yes, sir.
This is Mark L. White with Health Hacks, and today I'm so excited. We got two doctors, really, instead of one. And this is, I've known you guys forever, but we have Dr. Michael Grossman, and you're an MD, correct, doctor?
I'm an MD, anti-aging specialist, bioidentical hormones, stem cells, exosomes, and keep people young.
So you're the doctor we go to for our body, and your wife, Dr. Barbara Grossman, is a PhD. And a little bit about what you do.
I look to grow up people. People feel pain when they're stopped in their development. I help people move forward in their growth. A lot of that has to do with relationship issues because that really confronts us all with, where we're immature and how we have to grow. And I like helping couples move through that and develop themselves so that they love their relationships and they enjoy their lives and they raise and have good families.
So it's amazing. You bring a couple in there, and not only do you help their bodies optimize the bodies, but you help optimize the relationship and the mind.
Yes.
Right. One of the things that we talk about in our book, Ageless Love, which is a book that just came out, and it is a book that has three parts to it. The mind, it talks about what's special about romantic love. Mm-hmm. And how to make it work. And then there's a section on the body, mm-hmm. To experience the physiology being vital and living long and agelessly. And then the third chapter is on the spirit, mm-hmm. What it takes to live the spiritual life that allows for agelessness, meaning meditation and moving into a state of forgiveness for past problems and upsets and challenges. So those are the three chapters. And what we talk about in chapter 1 is what is the most important factor after the age of 50 in longevity. Is it cholesterol? Is it blood sugar? Is it being overweight? All these different things. And the answer is no.
Let me guess. Relationship.
The quality of your personal relationship, of a 80-year study from Harvard where they measured longevity. What was the factor in longevity for people over a lifetime? And it surprised them. The researchers they couldn't believe it, but that's what it shows.
How long have you guys been married?
51.
Or 52, maybe.
51 years.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Mazel tov. I've been married now 23 years, and I think of marriage like a marathon rather than a sprint. And I know you wrote another book, The Marriage Map. I know we talked about that a few years ago.
There you go.
And what would you recommend once like when we fall in love, we're attracted, sex is a big driver, but as we get older, what do we do to keep the relationship fresh?
Well, I believe mostly we need to learn skills on how to share ourselves. It's inevitable that we'll come up against our differences, mm-hmm. And we'll have feelings and visions for life that are different, and we have to learn how to talk about it. We'll come up against the way you were raised and your partner was raised, and that will be, conflicts. And there's a skill set for telling the truth about ourselves in a way that isn't offensive, that moves the conversation forward. It's a skill set that we have no reason to learn as children, no reason to learn as adolescents, but marriage is a partnership of equals who love and respect each other, and to learn how to share ourselves really opens up a whole new world and develops our personalities beyond anything we would ever imagine. And it's hard to move from being immature in relationship to mature, but it's so worth the effort.
So what's the biggest predictor if you meet a couple and they're in their 50s? What's the biggest predictor of this is going to be a healthy relationship for the future versus not? Do you see any commonalities between the best relationships?
Well, mostly it's a willingness to hear another point of view and to share oneself, and to learn that blaming is an instinct that doesn't pay off, and to learn just how to speak in a way that moves the conversation forward and creates understanding and eventual agreement on the road forward.
So there are specific skills that when we run classes for romantic relationship partners, we teach them skills. One of the critical skills is learning how to listen to each other. And it appears like you're listening without interrupting. So we actually have a process where we teach couples to listen to each other and to set up an appointment time that, hey, we need to have a time to have a discussion. And you make an appointment rather than trying to jump at the moment when maybe one or the other is not ready. And then when you're ready, you sit down and you create 10 minutes where you're going to listen to each other. And that's our process. And we teach that skill. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. When you learn that skill set, it's very critical to practice it and to use it ongoing so that when either of you in the partnership has an upset or something that you're feeling comfortable about, you've got to be able to express it in a way where your partner can actually hear you and you can feel like they're actually listening to you. That is a critical skill.
It is a critical skill. Is it something that anyone can learn, or some people just more empathetic and better listeners by nature?
You just need a willingness to learn and a willingness to, most of what we've learned about relationship comes from our growing up years. And as children in a family, we're not equal to our parents. We're subject to their personalities and their own psychologies. And we arrive at our adult life with, perceptions of hurt and conflict and frustration that comes from our childhood, and it plays out in our relationships. And in our romantic relationships, we have an opportunity to relook at that and reflect on what we've learned from our parents and how it wasn't intentional. It was just part of, the best they could do, and to open up the, gates to new capacities for listening and understanding and heal ourselves from our past injuries.
How, when you have a couple that comes from different backgrounds or different cultures, is that more of a challenge, do you find, with the couples you work with?
I believe every family is a unique culture, and no matter what couple we are talking about, they come from different cultures. It may look like the same, American sliced bread, but there's differences in every family. And, most of us, I think it's an intuitive thing. We are attracted to a partner for a lot of reasons, but one reason is that they have strengths we don't have, and they have vulnerabilities we don't have. And so the opportunity of being a couple is you bump up against those differences, and you have a chance to relook at them and heal them.
How important is sex as people age? Does it become more important after 20, 30 years of marriage, or is it less important?
Well, if you're asking me, I'd say sex is always important. I think it's the glue. It's a delicious, joyful connection that you need throughout your life. You need to take care of your physiology to make that happen forever.
Yeah, there's so many studies showing that ongoing sexual activity in a romantic partnership is a critical part of the glue and a critical part of health and well-being. And it's probably more important for men than it is for women, because men have trouble having intimate personal relationships outside of their marriage, whereas women can have many close relationships with other people outside their marriage, usually other women outside their marriage. And we find the studies show that when one partner passes away, if the man is left alone, he has a lot more trouble surviving than a woman. A woman can recover and begin to develop the personal relationships outside the marriage much easier than a man. And so for a man, it's real critical to have that intimate personal relationship. Very critical. It's critical for women too, but it's really critical for men.
And the beauty about working with the both of you is, whereas you talk about the mental aspects of marriage, I know with the stuff you're doing, Dr. Grossman, on Gainswave, exosomes, and the other medical treatments are helping guys now perform as they get older.
Well, absolutely. That's something that is so rewarding, to have men who cannot create sexual activity be able to do that. And once again, it is restoring the quality of their personal relationships. And it works so well. I've used Gainswave for 10 years now, and it's just so rewarding. And I combine it with these other growth factors. Exosomes is the latest one that I just love to add on to it. And these are just almost magical things. And it works for women too. I mean, so women have issues too, but for women, they can continue to be sexually active, but they lose a lot of the joy and pleasure, and we can restore that too. So it's been really lovely.
So how would you coach a guy who's been married for 25, 30 years and he's no longer satisfied with sex? And like, how would you get the woman, like, what steps would you take to get him to talk to his partner about rekindling the relationship?
So you're saying the problem is not the mechanics of intimacy. Problem is with the emotions of intimacy. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the problem, then they need to learn those skills that we talk about. You know, one of the skills we talk about is a big picture skill that you have to understand that don't expect a smooth ride in a romantic relationship. It's not supposed to be a smooth ride. It's not designed to be a smooth ride. It will not be a smooth ride. So what happens in our first book, we talk about it in depth. We talk about it some in our second book, Ageless Love. The first book, The Marriage Map, we talk about it in depth. What happens over time? You're in your 20s, you're falling in love, and you're just totally happy. By the time you become 30, the man has become very independent, and he's moved into the world of accomplishment and success, and he begins to separate out from who he was in the past. Who he was in the past, he was the relationship. He lived that for 10 years or so, and then he begins to move out, and he's no longer the relationship. He now is focused on his goals, on his accomplishments, on his beliefs, and that's who he becomes. And the woman will also move into that. If she has babies, she gets there a little slower than the man, but she'll get there too. And what happens for the woman is that the woman naturally starts being resentful, because here she is focusing, doing all this stuff for the family, and now she wants to be more for herself. And you move out of that, and it's a spiral. And on one side of the spiral, you're close to the things you love. The other side of the spiral, you're more distant from the things you love. And that spiral changes from the time you're 2 to the time you're 6 to the time you're a teenager. When you're a teenager, you're separate from the things you love. You want a distance from your parents. You want to express yourself. Then you move into being an intimate partner in a relationship, and you're in your 20s and you love that intimacy, and then you get into your 30s, maybe 40, and you want space again. So you've got to understand from a man or a woman that this is going to happen in your relationship. Don't think it's time to leave the relationship. You've got to let that partner be themselves, and you've got to have the skills to share and talk and listen to each other, what your new needs are now that you have changed.
So Michael's describing how a man and a woman is not in the same psychological space at the same time. And that leads over time to a collection of resentments. And that, resentments is going to get in the way of emotional intimacy and sexual intimacy. And so you have to learn how to share that and resolve that and work together. And that's just part of the developmental process that matures us and brings a deeper, richer love.
So I read somewhere that humans are not naturally monogamous, or at least, and I've heard others that humans are naturally monogamous as a species. Is monogamy something that comes natural to us, or is it something that we work for?
That's an interesting question. I personally don't relate to that question. I could relate to it in various ways. I would say I'm married to a man for 51 whatever years, and he's not the same man. So I've had multiple marriages inside the one marriage, and I've not been the same myself. So if you allow the dynamics of your relationship to unfold, and you have a growth perspective, you have many partners with a person who has fundamentally the same body over a lifetime.
That's an
So,
interesting concept, actually, when you think about it.
to paint a clearer picture, in our first marriage, Barbara and I, we got married when we were 20. We had 10 years of this lovely marriage where we did whatever I wanted, and I set the goals, and I created all the structure for the marriage, and Barbara did whatever I wanted, and that was a really nice marriage. I liked that one. And then she went back to graduate school, and she had her own opinions about things, and she wanted to do things her way, and that was like 6 years of really difficult trying to get through this thing. Who is this woman I'm married to now?
Mhm.
And then when we learned and went on this process of learning our own skills and taking the different courses, classes, and mentoring and so forth. And we learned then how to listen to each other and accept our differences. So that makes marriage very much more interesting. Not only is it interesting, it's challenging. It presses you to grow and develop as your partner is growing and developing. So in that case, having one romantic partnership is more than enough. But what happens is that when you don't let your partner grow, or they don't let you grow, then you want to get out and find something else. That does happen. But I think that if you have that intimate relationship working properly, that is tremendously fulfilling and challenging.
Mm-hmm. So like sparking intimacy as we age. And I actually had another note, like, is midlife crisis, is that a real thing, or is that a psychological construct?
It's a real thing. Yeah. So midlife, depending upon what you mean by midlife, there's usually one crisis when you're in your 30s, maybe early 40s. And I describe that where you're feeling this desire to be yourself. And when you get into the 50s, you have a different kind of a crisis where you're moving out of everything for me, and it's all about me, into another state where you're sort of looking at what's the purpose of all this me stuff, and you're looking for something much bigger. What's the bigger meaning of life? And that would be a midlife crisis, when you're moving out of it. It's all about me into the next phase of things. But there's got to be something more than this.
Okay. Ageless Love, let's get more into that book. That's geared towards people in their 50s and 60s and how to keep that strong love going? Or is that like when you say ageless, timeless love, which is it's a beautiful thing to think about, but how do we achieve it?
So the book is for anybody who is having an intimate romantic relationship, whatever your age. We have prescriptions in there that would be appropriate for anybody in terms of having the skills that you need to have a successful romantic relationship. So we have the body skills, and that can be for any age. So I talk about there's a chain link to creating physical ageless love. And in the chain link, whatever is the weakest link, that's where it's going to break. And so if you're really good about eating and exercising, but you're not really good about something else, such as sleep, your sleep is terrible, or maybe your relationship is terrible, or maybe you're just an anxious person, but you're exercising and eating real well. You have to focus on the weakest link. If your blood pressure is too high, you might die from high blood pressure and get a heart attack. And so you've got to look at your arteries. You got to look. So there's a lot of specific links, and we talk about it in our book. What all these different links. You have to think about them and make sure it's all working. If your brain doesn't work anymore, you can have a great healthy body. So you've got to take care of the weakest link. That's the physiology. In terms of the spiritual thing, most people need to learn a method of meditation where you can feel peaceful and calm. It's so important for longevity. And I see so many patients in my office who are successful and doing real well, but they are just a stress case, and they're accomplished and doing great, but they're going to wear their physiology out, and they need to learn to meditate. I've been teaching meditation for 40 years, and I run classes on meditation online, and people love that. So, and that could be for any age. There's no age thing for that. the chapter that we write on romantic love, it's an interesting chapter because it talks about the big picture of romantic love. We talk about fairy tales. We talk about right and left brain issues. And people have to learn to balance their life out in so many different ways. And in our current culture, at any age, people can be so into their left brain where they want to analyze and look at the details, and they want to separate out things and just focus on moving and changing the little pieces in their life. And that's a big problem, because people, if you don't see the big picture, then you're not going to be able to experience romantic love in its fullest nature, because you can't break it down into little pieces. It's a mystery. And so we talk about that. So that can be for any age, really. And it inspires anybody to see that romantic love is not a cute thing that you do. It's a really big thing, very big thing.
How does one, I guess, renew, like if you feel you're in a relationship that needs renewal, needs something, like needs some oomph, I guess that's for lack of a better word. How do you coach your clients, or what advice do you give in the book?
Well, we ask our folks to be in touch with themselves. What do they feel? What do they want? And to if you're in touch with yourself, you can. That means you go underneath the anger and resentment, and you connect up with what's missing, what you like in specific behavioral terms, and you make requests for those things. And you move the relationship forward by understanding yourself and stretching into the next area of interest or desire that you have, and sharing yourself. And sharing yourself doesn't mean being emotionally dramatic. It means, opening up and just reporting what you find. It's being, it's having learned that you're what's important to you. You simply share it in a way that's not confrontational, and you make requests that represent your desires. And those activities that you do will grow you and grow your relationship. And it can be that easy. Most of us, what we do is we collect those feelings, and then at some point we explode with them, get angry and pissed off, and blame our partners and have a complete breakdown, and things get stopped for a long time. And maybe you need help at that point because you're so under the burden of those negative feelings. But really, if you're willing to do a little extra reflection, you can move your relationship forward just by reporting what you find and asking for something, a new behavior, a new activity, a new conversation.
Do you work with a lot of partners that have either anger, resentment at maybe there was cheating in the relationship or something happened in the relationship? And how would you save that marriage, or how would you coach a partner to get past that?
Well, I would say that's probably, one of the major bread and butter elements of my practice. That's very common. And usually the partner that cheats is not proud of themselves. They're burdened by guilt and shame, and really they want the relationship, but they went outside to find something that was missing, and because they didn't know how to articulate what was missing. And so they thought they could find it somewhere else, and eventually that gets complicated. And so then you have a mess on your hands that you have to clean up. And it can be cleaned up in most instances. And it creates a new bridge to build a new relationship, same bodies, but new relationship, because now you've learned a whole lot more about yourselves and what you want. And so ultimately it creates something good, but it's a hard way to go. I don't recommend it. It's easier to just become aware of what's missing or what you want and say it and explore that together and develop, more organically. But, however you get to more maturity is a great way to go. It's better than being stuck and being angry. It's not good for your health to be living under a pile of resentment. So, but again, being in relationship means ultimately you have to face yourself and tell the truth. And so it's all good, however you get there. And people like me who work in the field, we help you talk to each other so that you can sort it out and grow your lives together.
I mean, I'm sure you have some interesting stories just because you've been doing this so long, but what would you say was the most interesting case you've worked on, or just something that somebody can take away from this?
I don't know that I can remember people's stories because it's not the dramatic story that I'm focusing on. But there's plenty of dramatic stories. And I talked to a gentleman last night with his wife. He's under a pile of pain because he went and did whatever he did. And of course, it's blown up the trust in the marriage, and the woman is hysterical and upset. And he feels horrible. He feels burdened. He's round-shouldered, can't sit, he's not sitting straight. He feels terrible about himself, and fundamentally he's stuck in a guilt that is so staggering and pummeling that he's got to work through that before they could do relationship work. And it wasn't about the other woman. It was about what was missing in the relationship that he didn't have the courage to talk about.
So really, it's a journey that a couple does together to get what we all want to achieve, which is this mythical, I guess it's that timeless love. It's really exciting. So Ageless Love is now available?
Yeah. You can get the book is now available. I like to offer your audience a free chapter on the book and some other pieces of the book, some of the prescriptions we put out. agelesslovebook.com/chapter.
Okay.
agelesslovebook.com/chapter. They can get a chapter of the book. They can actually buy the book. It is available. And we have our website, fallinginloveforever.com, and they could buy the book there and get some special additional bonuses. So those are all available.
It's beautiful to see two people that not only teach us this stuff, but you obviously live this. I mean, to be married for 51 years and to have such a successful relationship, and you both work together, right together, I think that's amazing. So it
is amazing, and it's not easy. It's not simple. It's not straightforward. It's a big, intense process.
And it's totally fun. I want you to know that my husband was willing to make me happy and learn to ballroom dance. And it's something totally outside of his ballpark. He'd rather play baseball for sure. But when he got too old to slide into first base, and they canceled him out of the team, he was willing to do ballroom dancing with me. We're now competing nationally in amateur competition. We've been training for 10 years. It's a fabulous, fun time. And my husband's been different people at different times. So have I. And so it's not like it's loving the same soul, but it has different incarnations over time. And it's a fabulous journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was going to ask you for like one tip you would give a couple. I learned like 2 magic words with my relationship, and that's "you're right." You're right. And then, because it's not, I think having a good relationship and being able to, I think my grandparents were married for 60 years before they passed away, but they said that they told me their secret was never go to bed angry.
Yeah.
Can I add to, though, in a relationship, there are 2 rights. Each partner is right, and you have to be able to hear it through so you understand that and accept that.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I'm definitely going to I'm going to get the book. We're going to put links in the notes. This is exciting. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if somebody wants to go to your website, I like that, fallinginloveforever.com.
Yes, right. And if they go into agelesslovebook.com/chapter, they get a free chapter.
Not only are you guys amazing at talking about love, but you're amazing marketers. So I'll make sure that gets out there. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.